You sleep on that one and you tell me that.
I'd like to call the April meeting of the City of Mission to order, please. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Martha, please call roll.
Davis.
Here.
Flora.
Here.
Inman.
Here.
Crane. Here. Quinn.
Here.
Rockrock. Here. Schlossmacher.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get started this evening, I would like to welcome all the residents of Mission and the members of the public. It must be getting close to the end of the school year because I think I see a lot of students out there. Some kind of a civic requirement to come visit us, which is great. We appreciate it. If you are here to talk about a specific item on the agenda, please wait until that item comes up and then raise your hand if you wish to address that item. If you are here not on a specific item on the agenda, there will be a time for the public to have comment under item 5 of our agenda. Item 1 today, we do not have any public hearings, so we'll go to item 2, special presentations. This evening we have 2 special presentations. The first is a proclamation, and it's recognizing Fair Housing Month in Mission. This April marks the 51st year since the signing of the Federal Fair Housing Act. It is important that we recognize and raise awareness of each individual's rights under fair housing. We are committed to equal housing opportunities in our community, and I'm honored to proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in the City of Mission. Ms. Smith will accept this proclamation, and she also has a few words.
Well, you said most of them for me, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
But, yes, I think it's important just to comment that the Fair Housing Month proclamation is something that we do each year. Really, the Fair Housing Act that was adopted back in 1968 had two purposes: to end housing discrimination and to really help promote diverse and inclusive communities. So it's important for us to recognize that. It's an important message that we send to our community each year, and I think this year strengthened even more so by the fact that with the passage of the city's non-discrimination ordinance in the fall of last year, we've provided some additional protections as it relates to discrimination in the area of housing. So we appreciate the council's willingness to consider this proclamation each year.
All right. Our second proclamation tonight recognizes National Small Business Week, which is May 5th through the 11th. Each business in our city, large or small, contributes to the overall success of our community, and it makes it a place for all of us not only to live, but to shop and to conduct business. I encourage each of us to support the many small businesses in our city, not only during Small Business Week, but throughout the year. They play a large part in making our city a unique destination. And tonight we have Kevin Fullerton with us, President of the Mission Business Partnership, and other small business owners I see. They're here to accept this proclamation. I want to thank each of you for the investment that you make in our city and that your employees make. Kevin, do you want to come forward? And I'll... We have this fancy proclamation for you.
There you go.
Is it upside down now?
There we go. 1, 2. Great.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. We appreciate your support of the small business community here in Mission.
Well, that was short and sweet. All right, item 3, issuance of notes and bonds. We do not have any this evening, so we will move to item 4, which is consent agenda. Our consent agenda tonight has 10 items on it. Our council committee met on April 3rd and fully discussed each of these items. The committees agreed that the items listed on this consent agenda are routine enough to be considered under a single motion. Several other items considered by the committees will be presented under committee reports later on in our agenda tonight. If a council member or a member of the public wants anything removed from the consent agenda, Now is the time to make that request. Does anybody want anything removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, items 4A through 4J.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Martha, please call roll. I'm sorry, hang on, I'm sorry. Kayla, do you have something?
I just wanted to say thank you to Laura for meeting with me, and we retitled the tree plant. I really appreciate that, so that's a comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
All right. Martha?
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Inman. Aye. Crane.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, that completes item 4. Item 5 is public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda specifically. So please come forward, state your name and your city of residence for the record. Do we have anybody that would like to come forward, Commissioner Fast?
So hello, I just coming by, just wanted to say a few words and a few highlights. I will be back longer in the fall to give a more of a budget presentation from the county. I just came from the new metal lark. Sorry. Becky Fast, Johnson County District 1, County Commissioner, Roland Park. So welcome and thank you for having me here. So I just came from the Johnson County new Meadowbrook facility, and it will be opening up June 1st. It is just an incredible, unique facility. There is a combination of a nature playground, a nature preschool. You can go fishing, learn about gardening, composting. So I think it's going to have a really huge impact on the Northeast in terms of that integrating environmental learning and parks and recreation. My district, County Commission District 1, goes from Merriam to Westwood and then down to Leawood. So it encompasses this whole Northeast area. And I wanted to thank Councilor Schlesmacher, I never say your name right, for coming to me to talk to me about the dog park. And then I spoke with the Johnson County Waste System about the gardens, and it looked like you've already approved that. And for that to be, unbeknownst that they had totally forgotten that your gardens were there and that they didn't have an agreement with you and it was expiring, so that came forth. The other matter with the Johnson County Waste System, which really impacts right next to my ward and Mission, is the renovations that are coming up in 2024. And I've talked to the director about having some town halls, some community meetings with you, because for City of Mission, there will be a lot of construction, a lot of noise, and that the City of Mission really has a good understanding of that development plan. Also on that website now, there is a link. So if any of your constituents come to you and complain about the smell, I want to thank Councilor Quinn and Councilor Crane, who came to the Roland Park years ago. That is something I've worked on for many years, is that smell from the Nelson Johnson County Waste System. And so now there's a link that your constituents can go to so that they can react immediately. So you don't have to call. For a while it was difficult to reach anybody and for them to respond. So I just asked for the City of Mission, if you could put that in your website, email out, so that residents know. They just go on and say, I'm smelling something, there's this weird odor, and so that they can start logging that in. Several other highlights. I am the liaison to the Johnson County Mental Health Board. That was an issue that I've been very passionate about, is mental health. It is going to be one of our top priorities for the County Commission, is looking at crisis intervention. How do we work with local cities on crisis response? You are going to be hearing from our sheriff. I think there was a meeting on Tuesday, I don't know if Laura made it, about the sheriff is proposing increased daily rates in the county jail. So the majority of the people in our county jail are municipal offenses, but a large percent are people with mental health. So how can we provide more mobile crisis support so they're not ending up in our local jails? And so that is something that I'm going to continue to push on. So right now the City of Mission pays $35 a day and the county pays $150 a day. And the sheriff is coming forward to increase that incrementally. Those are just beginning discussions. And for smaller cities, that's a huge amount of money. I don't know how much that you budgeted a year, but I know for other cities, so that will be an ongoing conversation. I'm also the liaison to the Solid Waste Management Committee. Councilor Kring has been on that committee for many years. Next Wednesday, we have a community input session. I have the flyer there. We are doing the 5-year plan right now. You served previously when the Solid Waste Committee recommended some huge changes with yard waste. And I've been hearing from a number of residents it's time for the county to make some additional changes to that solid waste plan. We have a landfill looking at filling up in 20 years. We've been able to divert waste and extend the life, but how can we extend it more? And so what needs to happen in this solid waste plan? Some people say it's time that we don't allow plastic. Some people say it's time that we don't allow construction debris. Some people say food, and others say we just need to do better education and encouragement. So this 5-year plan is really critical in terms of our waste diversion. Finding another landfill is going to be very difficult because who wants a landfill in their backyard? And permitting fees. So that is something that we're starting to work on right now. The other issue is housing affordability. We have that on our list, and I know that First Tier Suburbs has working with you. And so that is going to be a priority, looking at helping cities fund a housing affordability study or some of the kind of critical issues. So libraries, Lenexa also opens the first week of June. So we have the Lenexa opening, the Meadowbrook opening. Merriam is on its way, and then the next tier will be the Corinth Branch Library. So the Northeast area is really going to be served well with 2 branches, and we have the Cedar Row branch up here in the Northeast. One of the things that's been in the headlines is, do we take off the requirement for 30% food? And there's like 2 or 3 craft breweries in Mission looking at opening up. And when I was on the Roland Park City Council, I said the #1 constituent I heard from was people who wanted chickens. But the craft brewery people have surpassed my backyard hen people. I have just, every day my email is full. Northeast loves their craft beer, I've decided. So that is, would be placed on the ballot for a vote. So the county commission would decide whether we should allow it to go for a vote. We don't decide whether we have it, whether we take off the 30% requirement or not. We just make a decision, and it has to be on a statewide election. So whether the voters decide, and then Johnson County voters would go.
Statewide or countywide?
So it has to be a countywide election, and so we're still talking to the Secretary of State whether it can be this fall or next year, but I think it will have to be when there's state elections. So it could be a huge turnout with all these beer lovers coming out to vote. So I just wanted to be here. Please call me. You have my card. Text me. Email me. I'm so glad you let me know about the dog park, and we got to look into the garden. I want to be your partner in the county commission. I want to be your voice. My district has 11 cities, so half of the cities are in the Northeast area, but most are small cities. Leewood's a larger city. So I want to be your strong voice and continue to represent you on the county commission, but I need to hear from you to be a strong voice. So that's all I'm here today, if you have any questions.
Any questions for the commissioners?
Yeah, I love Johnson Drive. You guys you're doing a wonderful job, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wish to make a public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6. It's action items. We do not have any items coming from our planning commission this evening. So item 7 is committee reports. Councilmember Schlossmacher, would you give us a report on the Finance and Administration Committee, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance and Administration Committee met on April 3rd and discussed 8 items, including approval of previous meetings' minutes. 3 of those items were already considered with tonight's consent agenda. We have 3 additional items for consideration this evening. Information on the election of Council President and Vice President was provided at the meeting as a discussion item, and these elections are also under tonight's agenda under new business. So I will start with item 7A, an ordinance establishing Rolling Court Townhomes Community Improvement District. Following a subsidence of the parking lot and common area at the Rolling Court Townhomes, staff began working with the residents, consultants, and engineers to address the situation and find a cooperative solution. It was determined the creation of a community improvement district would allow for a special assessment through the CID that would allow property owners a longer period of time over which to repay their repair costs. A valid petition was submitted in December of 2018. Council held a public hearing on January 16th as required by state statute. In February, the Rolling Court Homes Association expressed an interest in exploring an increase to the maximum annual assessment to potentially repair and upgrade all of the parking area as opposed to just the area that was damaged. After meeting with and a vote by the property owners, the HOA submitted the revised and valid petition that would increase the maximum annual assessment from the original $781 per year per unit to an assessment of $911 per year per unit. A public hearing on the revised petition was held on March 20th. All required notices were provided following the passage of both resolutions calling public hearings. Adoption of this proposed ordinance, which was prepared by our bond counsel, is the next step in formally establishing the Rolling Court Townhomes Community Improvement District. So Mayor, I move the City Council adopt an ordinance authorizing the creation of the Rolling Court Townhomes Community Improvement District in the City of Mission, Kansas, authorizing the making of certain project improvements relating thereto, approving the estimated cost of such project improvements, and providing for the method of financing the same, including imposition of special assessments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this item?
May I ask who
Yes.
seconded? I'm sorry.
I think Ken.
Ken.
Thank you.
I might just provide a little bit of information, if you don't mind, about kind of next steps coming up. So once you approve the ordinance, we've had some preliminary conversations about design and financing related to the project. We actually discussed in detail this project with our Capital Improvement Committee earlier this month, who were very supportive of trying to move forward if we can with the entire project. So I have been working with our financial advisor, Bruce Kimmel, this week and plan to bring back at our May 1st committee meeting some specific look at the financing options, and then we would be ready probably at the June meeting to make a decision on whether we want to proceed with design and construction of the entire creek channel, or whether we want to address just this portion that would make the improvements behind the Rolling Court Townhomes Association. So I wanted to let you know those are coming. There is a 60-day protest period in the CID statutes that we have to wait until 60 days after the date of the public hearing, which was back in March, before we could even consider the issuance of any bonds related to the financing of the project. So that puts us really out through our May council meeting and into June, but we'll be lined up and we'll be prepared to try to move this forward in one way or the other.
All right. Any discussion on the motion that's on the table?
I would just like to again give kudos to staff on finding a cooperative way to work with some of the property owners in the city here.
All right. Seeing nothing else, please call for the vote.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, next up we have item 7B, the Space Needs Analysis Contract Award. In February, a request for qualifications seeking proposals for a facility space needs analysis for City Hall and the Police Department was released. 6 responses were received, and all 6 firms were interviewed by a panel that included Councilmember Quinn and Councilmember Thomas. Based on the results of the interviews and follow-up with references, it's recommended that the city enter into an agreement for space needs analysis with SFS Architecture. The proposal from SFS Architecture is in 2 phases, the city having the option to proceed with phase 2 should phase 1 determine the current building space is suitable for renovation. The cost of the phase 1 space needs analysis is in an amount not to exceed $15,760. So Mayor, I move that the City Council approve a contract with SFS Architecture for a phase 1 space needs analysis assessment of City Hall and the Police Department facility in an amount not to exceed $15,760.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on this item? Yes.
Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment that during the interviews, SFS was really a standout for everyone on the panel, and they have done a lot of impressive work, and I think Councilmember Quinn would agree that I think we'll be in good hands, and I think it's a worthy investment.
Yes. And should you authorize the contract, we're ready to start meeting and getting this process rolling next week.
Good.
Great.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Flora,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Cream,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Schlesmacher,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, last up, we have item 7C, council liaisons to appointed boards and commissions. During our council's January retreat, interest was expressed in establishing formal council liaison positions to the Parks, Rec, and Tree Commission, Sustainability Commission, and the Capital Improvement Program Committee. This proposed city council policy creates the liaison positions and outlines roles and responsibilities. The liaison is intended to serve as a point of contact and connection for the commission or committee rather than an advocate for or ex officio member. Up to 2 liaison positions are created for each group, and appointments will be made by the mayor for a period of 2 years. Following initial adoption, council liaison appointments will be made in December of odd-numbered years or as vacancies occur. Following adoption of this policy, the mayor will make appointments under the mayor's report at this meeting. So Mayor, I move the City Council approve the City Council Policy 130, detailing the roles and responsibilities related to City Council communication and interaction with certain appointed commissions and committees, and establishing City Council liaisons to the same.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on this item?
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
I'm very happy that this is being done because I think it strengthens the relationship between our various committees and makes them truly a reporting committee to the council, as well as providing that ongoing communication between the council and the members of those committees.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Inman,
Aye.
Flora,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Cream,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor, that concludes our Finance Administration report. Thank you.
Thank you. And as Councilmember Schlesmacher indicated, this is the policy that's been approved, and the appointments will come under item 11 of the agenda this evening. Next, we have our Community Development Committee, Councilmember Inman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Community Development Committee also met on April 3rd and discussed 10 items. These included approval of the committee minutes, the discussion of the CARS program, and the 51st Street traffic safety concerns. 6 of the action items discussed at the committee meeting were approved on tonight's consent agenda, and we have 1 additional item for consideration. That item is the Broadmoor construction contract award. The existing pavement, curb, and stormwater infrastructure on Broadmoor between Johnson Drive and Martway is in poor condition and needs to be reconstructed. In October 2018, Council adopted a resolution establishing the design concept for this project. Improvements include full-depth reconstruction, new curbs, stormwater infrastructure, ADA improvements, pavement markings, street signs, as well as the installation of a new signal in Johnson Drive and Broadmoor. This project is included in the 2019 CIP and will receive funding from Johnson County CARS program. Bids for this project were received from 3 contractors. All these bids exceeded the engineer's estimate, the Amino Brothers Company being the lowest and most responsive bidder. Staff has secured a change order for this project from the county, resulting in an additional $75,000 in CARS funding. The recommended contract from Amino Brothers is in the amount not to exceed $1,081,404.69. Mayor, I move the City Council approve the contracts with Amino Brothers Company for the improvements to Broadmoor, Johnson Drive, and to Martway in the amount not to exceed $1,081,404.69.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Ms. Cream.
I'd like to know if we contacted the Amino Brothers to discuss our concerns at the last committee meeting regarding that substantial
Yes.
increase in one-month time.
We did, and our apologies. We should have been had more of those questions answered when we came to the committee meeting. But we did have the opportunity last week to sit down. Brent Morton and I sat with Paul Moore, the engineer from Olson, who was responsible for putting that engineer's estimate together, and we had a conference call with Amino Brothers to walk through the areas where we had seen some significant differences in that contract. And just to kind of refresh your memory and for the public's benefit, part of that change occurred as a result of us not having a formal opportunity to amend our budget. So part of the engineer's estimate changed not just at bid time, but was adjusted about a year or last fall with changes to the tune of about $75,000 to an increase in the traffic signal cost, which, as we saw in the bid tabulations that bore out, that change in the traffic signal cost was warranted. And then in addition, in February, after January and February, when Water One was out doing a line replacement through that stretch, there were some additional stormwater structures that were identified as a part of their excavation and their work that had not we had not previously been aware of. So there was about another $30,000 to $32,000 that was identified and it needed some increases in additional stormwater structures that were added to the budget. So about $100,000 of this came from the last time we formally adopted the project budget through, our first sort of foray onto the site and actually touching what was physically out there. The other areas that we talked about at the committee meeting then were really just the differences in that number from March of this year to when the bids came in. And so that gap was about $172,000. Driven primarily by kind of three big categories: excavation and earthwork, sidewalk construction, and then kind of the concrete curb and gutter work. In speaking with Amino Brothers, as we suspected, this is a limited site, work site. There's no, as they put it there, it is slow production work, and there's no opportunity to hit a long stretch or an open stretch of roadway where they are able to sort of make up that time. So it's very time-consuming work. They aren't able to bring in equipment, for example, like a contractor used on Fox Ridge to install the curb. So the curb work and a lot of that work is done all by hand as opposed to being able to utilize some pieces of equipment. So that drives some of the costs related to that. I think also, as we talked with them, the fact that we're requiring that access be maintained to all of those businesses throughout the entire course of the construction also requires them to be somewhat creative and a little bit limited in how they manage and stage and phase various components of that project. And I will tell you that Amino Brothers was the contractor on the Johnson Drive project, and Emily would probably support this, that they did a phenomenal job of working with the businesses to provide temporary access and to look at alternatives. And so they're familiar with what our expectations are, and probably based on their experience with us on Johnson Drive and having those same requirements applied to the Broadmoor project impacted that. We did also talk with them about any opportunities and possibility for savings on the project. The only thing that we really felt like we had any opportunity to explore was a requirement in the bid tab for fly ash material, which is something that's put down underneath your pavement. Fly ash is becoming increasingly expensive. And so Amino Brothers had suggested that we evaluate a different, basically subsurface material. We did, and in fact, based on the quantities that would be required, it actually increased the project cost. So there wasn't a real opportunity for savings there. So I think, again, right now with the additional change order and the additional funding from the Johnson County CARS program, our project from where we had originally anticipated being with our project budget overall, we are over our estimated budget by $239,219. So a portion of that is in the construction costs, a portion of that is actually in construction inspection costs as well. And I think the table in the packet identifies that about $41,000 of that was in the construction inspection contract. That is a not to exceed number, and I think when we approved that construction inspection contract, we talked about the fact that there's some additional time built in on the back end in anticipation on lead time and installation of the traffic signal. If the traffic signal meets the rest of the schedule, we have an opportunity to probably shave 3 or more weeks off of that and bring that cost down. So that is not Again, that is a not to exceed cost, and I think we have the opportunity to recognize some savings. There is one traffic signal pole supplier, as we talked with Amino Brothers, they actually manufacture the poles in a facility in Nebraska that has been impacted by some of the recent flooding. So we spoke with them about, concerns about how that might impact the lead time. I think it's still reasonable. What would happen on a traffic signal and the stormwater structures if the council decides to move forward with the contract is that shop drawings would need to be prepared by the contractor and reviewed by the engineer. The project construction cannot start until those shop drawings are approved and those materials are actually manufactured, particularly on the stormwater side. So we still have some time to move forward, and during that time period we would be trying to move forward with the easement acquisition. Be happy to try to answer any other questions. There are funds available in the overall street program. As we talked about, we never like to be over a project budget. Sometimes we luck out. On the Fox Road project last year, for example, we were under budget by about the same amount. So there's always some give and take. There are funds available in the capital improvement budget and the capital improvement fund to accommodate the increase in the construction.
First, I'd like to thank you for your due diligence in looking that through. I appreciate that, because I think it's real important that we know where we're coming from with the dollars that we spend. I also want to thank Kevin and Emily for giving some head shaking that Amino Brothers did a really solid job on Johnson Drive. I think our next step would be a question to the engineer that we have a relationship with that came, from my perspective, fully unprepared to discuss why the costs were higher. He didn't understand it. He probably should have made the call ahead of time and then come to us and said, this is how it is. I've talked to my colleagues and they don't understand it either. That put us in a really awkward position. It's not you, Laura.
We've had that conversation. So we have discussed with that engineer, and I think we've talked about our own internal processes. So we have talked with the engineers at Olson, and we will talk with GBA as well, that really one of our expectations is as the bid estimates change over time, which happens with every project. The closer you get to actual construction, the more refined those bids get. But that our expectation is not that we go hunting for the differences, is that they outline those differences for us every step along the way. They also go back, we also looked at the project that they indicated they used as a comparison. Again, it had more of a greenfield component in some respects, and so some of those costs, when you're looking at trying to apply those unit costs to a one block area that's got 11 different businesses that will be impacted in the course of that, there are some differences. So had we had a better understanding of what project they were comparing to, I think we would have pushed back on that. So I think Brent and I certainly have had some really good conversations about our processes going forward, but we have had that conversation specifically with Olson.
Any other questions? Or,
Laura. I don't have a question for Laura, but just a comment about where we're at. I've expressed concerns about the project design sort of throughout this process. I don't think I need to rehash all of that. But I think given this new cost overrun of $239,000 over budget, and my hesitation that this particular plan is not in the best interest of the city long term, I don't think I can support the project any longer.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Flora,
Nay.
Inman,
Aye.
Crane,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Schlosmacher,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
And that concludes the CDC report.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, unfinished business. We do not have any unfinished business tonight. New business. Tonight we have one item under new business, which is the election of our council president and our council vice president. Let me describe how I'd like to suggest how this process go, and then we'll open it up. So I will accept nominations in a moment for president of the council. A nomination has to have a second. So I'll ask for nominations. We'll have a nomination second. If there are more nominations, another nomination second. When we're done with nominations, then we will have a voice vote. Instead of aye or nay, you will say out loud the nominee that you're supporting. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, Mr. Davis.
I was just wondering on procedure. I know that some members are subject to election this year and others are not. In the past, has that made any impact in terms of the decision of who's nominated or not?
No, I mean, anybody could leave council tomorrow, so to try to anticipate what's going to happen with the election, I don't think it would be appropriate. I mean, someone could move out of the city tomorrow and not be able to fulfill it. We would just fill that role at the time.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the process? All right, then I would open up nominations for the council president position.
Mayor, I nominate Sally Floor for the position of council president with the term expiring April 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for this nominee. Ms. Crane.
I nominate R.C. Rothrock for the position of council president with a term expiring April 2021.
Second.
We have a motion, or a nomination and a second. Any other nominations? Seeing none, then I will ask for a vote, and as Martha calls out, you will either say Ms. Rothrock or Ms. Flora. All right, Martha?
Davis,
Ms. Flora?
Schlosmacher,
Councilmember Rothrock.
Rothrock,
Ms. Rothrock?
Quinn,
Ms. Rothrock?
Flora,
Ms. Flora,
Thomas,
Ms. Flora?
Inman,
Ms. Flora.
Crane, Councilmember Rothrock.
I count a 4-4 tie, is that correct, Martha?
1, 2, 3, 4, yes, correct.
So I need to cast a deciding vote, and I vote Ms. Rothrock. All right. Council Vice President, I would accept nomination at this time.
Mayor, I nominate Sally Floor for the position of council vice president with the term expiring April 2021.
Second.
We have a nomination and a second. Mr. Quinn.
I'd like to nominate Nick Schlossmacher. Did I say that correctly, sir?
Do we have a second on that nomination?
Second.
We have a second on that nomination. Any other nominations? Seeing none, Martha, would you ask for the vote, please?
Yes, Schlosmacher,
Schlossmacher.
Quinn,
Schlossmacher.
Rothrock, Thomas,
Flora?
Crane,
Schlosmacher.
Inman,
Flora.
Davis,
Flora?
Flora,
Flora,
We have another 4-4 tie, so I cast the vote for Schlossmacher. All right, I think that concludes. Mr. Quinn.
Mayor, if I could, I just wanted to say that I tried to warn these people ahead of time that I had set the bar rather high for council president, but I have a feeling that RC can step up to the challenge and handle it no problem. Congratulations.
All right, so we're moving on to item 10. This is comments from the council. Does anybody have a comment for the greater good? Ms. Crane. Okay, Ms. Flora.
I was just going to say congratulations to our new president and vice president, and no hard feelings, and I look forward to continuing to work with both of you.
Yes, Ms. Crane.
I just need to let you know that I will not be in attendance at the May council meeting. I will be attending the Federal Advisory Commission for the Environmental Protection Agency on behalf of the city, but I will call in that evening.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Davis.
Just to clarify, we do not have a work session on the 24th.
That's correct.
Yeah, that will be under my report, but we are going to do that, so.
Yes, Ms. Thomas.
I may not be at the committee meetings, if this child ever comes. But just wanted to give a heads up, and if there is a lull in my response time for any constituents, it may be that. But I plan to be back in action in June.
All right, any other comments?
I've got a comment.
Yes.
We do have a Ward 3 meeting at Sylvester Panel on Thursday at 7 o'clock.
All right. Anything else? Okay, seeing none, we will move, I'm sorry, I forgot something in the mayor's report. May I go back? Laura?
You aren't to your mayor's report
Oh.
yet. You're next.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. Before we get into the appointments of the council liaisons, I wanted to make you guys aware, and I need some help, Laura, because I didn't look up the date, but I want to talk about the Harvesters Mobile Food Truck event that we're planning. As many of you know, we have an annual Thanksgiving and Christmas kind of a family adoption program where we provide Thanksgiving meals, Christmas meals, presents during that time. And we have an opportunity to partner with Harvesters and for them to bring out a mobile food truck. And do you have the date?
May 11th.
May 11th. So we picked May 11th as the date. It's a Saturday morning. Basically, Harvesters, they bring a truck. We have to bring volunteers. We're using Shawnee Mission North's parking lot. And so the food part is taken care of. What we need to do as a city to have this event is to provide the volunteers. And so we need all different kinds of volunteers. We need 25 to 30 to handle the amount of people we think are going to come through and the cars that are going to come through that parking lot. Not only do we need bodies, volunteers, we also need people who have the kind of logistics experience. We need people who are going to run the parking, because my understanding is that people queue up fairly early for this event, and so we have to get them queued so there's not a disruption on Johnson Drive. We need someone there's a apportionment of the amount of food versus the amount of people, so we need someone who can do that. So we need some people in prime roles that would go through some training to make this event work. So if you have an interest in volunteering, or you have an interest in taking one of the, I would call them logistical positions, kind of a lead position, let me know. I'll pass your name on to Susie Gibbs. And we're trying this event. In theory, it's great. We have to get through the logistics of how to get it done, and we'll learn a lot, I'm sure. So if you have any interest, let me know, or let Susie know, either one, and see if we can make this a success. So any questions about that event?
Can you give the detail about the date?
Okay, I'm sorry, it's May 11th, and then...
May 11th, the volunteers would need to arrive at about 8:30.
8:30.
I believe the distribution event would then begin about 9:30, and typically runs till about 11. And
So,
then there would be some cleanup afterwards.
So the truck arrives, they unload the truck, we have to, there's pallets, we have to unpack the pallets, we have to put the tables out, put the food on the tables, get the parking lined up, get people queued, and then load the cars as they come through. We have some record keeping we have to do for Harvesters. So that's kind of the basics. And if you're interested in, we are going to have a training. I think we're having a meeting and a training, right? Or is it?
Correct. There's a site visit on April 30th at 9 a.m. and then a training session that will follow immediately thereafter, I believe, at the community center.
So if you have interest, that would be the time to come and learn the particulars. So now Harvesters staff will be there for our event. So, but we visited, Laura and I, Susie, Kathy. We visited, and several others, visited an event out south, and it's a remarkable event. I mean, it really was, but I could also tell that the people had done it before. I mean, it ran pretty smooth. There were a lot of cars lined up. I mean,
It served about 160 vehicles in about an hour and a half.
So it's, all
And
right. Yes.
So I think just a little bit, so this whole look at the mobile collection event stemmed from, as Susie was looking at Harvesters barrels being around our community, and feeling as if there weren't really Harvesters pantries necessarily that were accessible. So a lot of that food is leaving the Northeast Johnson County area, and her concern was, how do we bring or keep food available to our Northeast Johnson County residents? And so She and Kathy Lockard and the manager at Hy-Vee sat down with representatives from harvesters, I think probably early January, and just kind of talked about the options. And that's where this mobile distribution event. So the food comes to us at no cost, and it's primarily perishable items, and so different than what you would be able to go to one of their food pantries to receive. And there are very few in the northeast area of the mobile distribution events. In fact, New Life City Church just partnered with harvesters in March to start a fourth Saturday of the month distribution at Marion Park Elementary School. So this would be a supplement to that. So as the mayor said, we're going to give it a shot and see if it's something we think we could sustain long term, because there's certainly a need for that. But primarily we would work similarly as we do for the holiday adoption program through the social workers at our schools, at least for the initial run, so that we can hopefully keep the numbers manageable, so that we get a sense of, what does it really take for us to do this. And then the events are open to anyone. There's not anyone that would be turned away from a mobile distribution event.
And when do you have to have this information? If we can volunteer or not? Is there a
May
deadline?
10.
May 10.
I prefer to have it by then. But
Well, if you want to get the training.
if you want to get the, well, and I don't know that, I think really the training is going to be geared to kind of those key project managers. So if you just want, and I've got a volunteer sign-up sheet with some descriptions about the responsibilities. I'll be happy to email that out to everyone, so you can kind of look and see if there's an area that you might be more interested in than another.
Fantastic, thank you.
All right. Okay, more on the mayor's report. It's the appointment city council liaisons. Earlier, on our agenda, we approved a council policy establishing our council liaisons positions, and the following appointments are going to be for 1 year. So I put before you this evening the following appointments as council liaisons. For the CIP committee, Councilmember Kristen Inman and Councilmember Ken Davis. For Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission, Councilmember Nick Schlossmacher and Councilmember Hillary Thomas. Sustainability Commission, Councilmember Debbie Kring and Councilmember Sally Flora. Family Adoption Committee, Councilmember R.C. Rothrock and Councilmember Nick Schlossmacher. And Mission Magazine Committee, Councilmember Pat Quinn and Councilmember Kristen Inman. Now, I think I explained to you guys in the email that since there's only 5 committees and there's 8 of you, we tried to get everybody their first choice. Tried to make it as best we could. And I had to ask some people to move to a committee or take their second choice, so I really appreciate the flexibility and cooperation from you all, because it wouldn't have been possible without that. So I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council uphold the city council liaison appointments as presented in your mayor's report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions?
Take your pick.
Seeing none,
Yeah,
please call for the vote.
Kring,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Schlossmacher,
Aye.
Flora,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
All right, that concludes the mayor's report, so we move on to the city administrator's report. Laura.
I have a longer one than usual, so I'm going to come up here because nobody can hear me when I sit at that big table. Lots of things going on. It's spring. Everybody's out and about, and it feels like there's just sort of a renewed life and renewed energy. So as Councilmember Davis said, we are going to cancel the work session, the budget work session that was scheduled for next Wednesday, the 24th. As we've started to really just look at the budget, I think that it makes more sense. I think I would be asking you to come and maybe not being the most efficient use of your time next week. We'll combine that with our discussion that was already planned at the May 1st committee meeting on the Finance and Admin Committee. So you got the night off, but thank you. If you do have, we were scheduled to discuss next week just kind of overall goals and objectives for our 2020 budget process. So if there are specific issues or items or things that you want to make sure that we evaluate and consider as we go through the process over the next several months, please feel free to email those to me, and we'll make sure that those get incorporated into our conversation on May 1st. Just a reminder that the Bunny Extravaganza is scheduled for this Saturday at the Community Center from 10 to noon. If you are interested in attending, it's always a great event. Looks like the weather's going to be really nice for that. Also then next week, we have I think I maybe have shared with you that we had our first group, the Scout troops, both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts from Rushton Elementary have adopted Waterworks Park through our Adopt a Park program. And we have been working, they have a primary coordinator, but the Boy Scouts are going to be doing their first event in Waterworks Park as part of that, and they're planting a tree in Waterworks Park this coming Monday on Earth Day. So they've been working with Brent Morton. I have a meeting with their coordinator next week, and we're going to try to map out the next 6 or 8 months worth of projects and activities, and so we'll certainly keep you apprised of those, but excited to start to work with those scouting groups and get them invested in that park. Also then on the 26th, so a week from Friday, we have the Arbor Day celebration with 53 of our second graders from Rushton Elementary School. That will be from 9:30 to 11 at Waterworks Park, and certainly if you are available to attend, it's always a lot of fun. There's tree trivia that the mayor will share and kick off, and it's a great event. So encourage you, if you're available, to join us between 9:30 and 11 on the 26th. Also, this coming Friday, there is a First Suburbs Coalition meeting. It's not too late if you are planning to attend, great. If you haven't RSVP'd, there's certainly that opportunity. It will be held at the Gladstone Community Center. And one of the things that we will be talking about is the upcoming summit in July that we'll be hosting as a result of the grant that we secured through the National League of Cities. It's around the topic of affordable housing, which is kind of the subject area for the First Suburbs group for 2019, and I will tell you that just really in the last couple of weeks, I'm getting, and even today in some conversations, but I think this thing is really growing some exciting possibilities and some connections and some relationships. I will be participating in a panel with UCS's Board of Directors and Advisors the first week of May to kind of share our efforts and what we hope to accomplish with that, and being able to tap into that group, I think will make some really important connections around this whole topic of affordable housing. So you never know what you're going to be able to accomplish, but I think there are several who are working around this whole summit that are starting to see some real potential and maybe some real opportunities for strategies to come out of that. So that's very exciting. So if you're able to come this Friday to that First Suburbs meeting, would encourage you to do that. As Commissioner Fast mentioned, I was able to attend a meeting of other managers and administrators with the Johnson County Sheriff, County Chair, Vice Chair, and other representatives from the county this past Monday to start to talk about potential increases in our prisoner housing costs. The county has not increased the daily cost charged to the cities for 30 years. So there's a lot of good information shared, a lot of good questions asked, and so we're going to be trading some things and also working with the district attorney to look at opportunities to reduce the impact or those costs overall by maybe alternative strategies, whether that's related to booking or those kinds of things. So we'll continue to keep you apprised of that as we go through the budget process. The sheriff also did a presentation on his drug task force that he's working to put together. So again, we'll talk about that when we go through the budget process in the coming months. And I think you all saw the announcement. You've seen the announcement of the Synergy Entertainment Complex with the Gateway Project. And I saw an email from the developer today that said their construction crews are mobilizing and they expect construction activity to resume next week. So exciting on that front. And I think that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Ms. Crane.
I have one more, I apologize. Just an FYI, Keith and Associates will have an open house, the dentist office at Johnson Gardner Mall Friday from 5 to 7.
Okay. All right, next item is item 13, executive session. We do not have a need for an executive session this evening. Therefore, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.